Excellent. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning into a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have a magnificent guest with us today, one who's going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than our brother Rafiq Zaidi Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, brother Josh. How are you and the family?
Yes, sir. We're doing excellent. How are you and your family, sir?
We're doing excellent also, brother. All praise is due to Allah.
Yes, sir. Well, we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the People's Podcast. The first question that we have for you today, sir, is when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
First, I want to open up in the name of Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, that great, great, great wonder to the black man and woman in America.
Yes, sir.
If we prayed all day and if we cried all night long, we couldn't thank him enough for the exalted Christ, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and our beloved teacher, our beloved guide, and a reminder and representative in our midst, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. First, I want to lay a foundation. Initially, I was arrested in 1968 for bank robbery, federal bank robbery charge. I didn't know anything about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Islam. I didn't know the sun from the moon until I was introduced by Brother Benjamin Mitchell, one of the former senior pioneers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who at that time, he was in Richmond, Virginia Mosque. I was in jail waiting transfer by the United States Federal Marshals to the federal penitentiary. So I gave a call down to the temple, and Brother Gerard X. Green, who's now Saad Al-Amin, Attorney Saad Al-Amin, he answered the phone. I said, brother, I got a Muhammad Speech newspaper. Can I speak to the minister? So he let me speak to Brother Benjamin, and he came down to the jail, and he brought me How to Eat to Live and Message to the Black Man. That was my initial initiation. That was the recruiting date. And he gave me a little history of himself. He told me that when he was in DC and the messenger was on the run, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stayed with him for a while. He was a United States postman. And he taught me some of the things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught him about institutions, prisons, and jails. And that gave me a firm foundation on how to carry myself once I reached a real brotherhood in the institutions. So when I was convicted, they gave me 21 years sentence. I ended up in Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary. So the court had issued an order at that time that I have black man is crazy when he rob a bank, that I have a psychiatric evaluation. So during that period and process of my evaluation at Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary, something jumped off. And immediately they came to my cell and locked me up. The next morning, they transferred me back to Norfolk, Virginia, the federal court. And when I got on the road with the United States Marshals, I found out that the Brotherhood at Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary had an altercation. It was on Ramadan, had an altercation with the federal officials. One of the officials pushed Brother Eki out of the line, the bean soup line, the main line, and a rumble pursued because the brothers weren't gonna let nobody touch their brother.
Yes,
that was a hands-off thing in the federal penitentiary. So the whole black population rose up in the dining hall. I understand that during that altercation, a lot of officers were wounded from brothers' hands. I understand that a lot of officers ended up in a hospital. And I was told that they called out the National Guard. They locked all the Muslim brothers up. There was approximately 14 of them. They locked them up on what they call safekeeping lockup isolation. The leading brother was our student at that time, was our acting minister, Brother Keith X. Farris. The student captain in the federal penitentiary at that time, Lewisburg, was Billy X. Bulwalk. Beautiful brothers, beautiful students of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So once they brought me back to Lewisburg, everything was locked down. I was the only Muslim on the population. I was walking around on the yard and the brothers hollered out, lock up windows. Said, Brother Rafiq, or Brother Edward X. Chapman during that time, said, brother, say, carry on, man. He a baby Muslim. I don't even know the original man from Satan. Didn't tell me to carry on. I said, brother, you got my message to the black man? I said, yes, sir. So open up Sunday. So I went to the lieutenant, who was the head officer, to open up the auditorium on Sundays for events. And I sat down with him. He said, you sure you want to open up? I said, yes, sir. I said, I received the order. I received instructions.
Yes, sir.
He said, well, I tell you what, let's put it off to the next week. So I said, yes, sir. Before that Friday came, I heard some shackles and keys and, you know, they were chains. Those were the United States Marshals. They came to my cell, they accosted me, and they flew me into Leavenworth, Texas, Federal Penitentiary. When I got to Leavenworth, I was immediately placed in the hole. I stayed in the hole for approximately 5 months. After that, when they released me from the hole, they sent me to the kitchen. They put me in the kitchen to work with other brothers. At that time, I didn't know too much about what we should and what we shouldn't do, you know, as Muslims in the kitchen. But the brother had told me, one of the brothers, while I was locked up, he said, brother, don't handle that pork. Don't you handle that pork and give it to other inmates, and don't you touch it yourself. And then he showed me in how to eat the lid where the messenger said, don't touch it. Don't go near it. Ganzil. So here I am, another loner. So when the sergeant came to me on the food line, he pushed the pork pan to me. That was the setup. I denied him, locked me up again. During the time I was locked up, I understand from the FBI reports that lieutenant who issued an order to place me in the hole in segregation, he went one morning about 2 weeks after I was locked up to light the poly light in the kitchen to bake some bakeries. That was his job. He was to light the poly light to start that breakfast off for the institution. And I understand that didn't anything come out of that oven but his shoes. It blew up. So you know what happened then? They came, got me again, because he was the one that locked me up. They shipped me to Marion Federal Penitentiary. But this time, the marshals kept me by car. I was shackled down all the way. And when I got to Marion Federal Penitentiary, I was immediately again placed back in segregation. After about 90 days, they released me from segregation into the general population. And there I joined Brother Keith, Brother Billy, and about 14 other brothers from Philadelphia and New Jersey, and I think 2 from Chicago that made up the Brotherhood. So eventually I became the Brotherhood secretary because I could write. And I hung in the legal library all the time. So here we come again. They offered me some long rubber gloves. They said, Chapman, call me Chapman.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna serve on this kitchen line as long as you're in Marion. Now there's gonna be pork on the line, and you're gonna have to serve it regardless. I said, oh, praises be to Allah. I said, here I go again. I said, here I go again. So I refused. So they got me with refusing to take a direct order. I disobeyed a direct order from another lieutenant. So they locked me up. And from that point on, I went to federal court. The first piece of paper I sent to the federal judge, believe me, was on toilet tissue. Asking the court to grant me permission to have legal material, which was a legal pad and pen. They brought that down to me, put it in my cell. I filed a federal court action, which is Chapman versus Kleindienst, Chapman versus Pickett, Warden Pickett, Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary. They kept me in a hole for almost 9 months then. Now, this is a total of almost 2 years now in isolation without being in general population hardly. So when they released me from the general population, I found out that there was a lot of people that the Hon Elijah Muhammad had impressed. That's why I understand why the ministers say that I have soldiers inside and out.
That's right.
So one of these soldiers was himself, Dr. Lonnie Shabazz. who now known as Abdul Alim Shabazz, who I attended his burial at Quantico National Cemetery when he departed. That's a long story in itself to tell you about that. So Dr. Shabazz visited those institutions. He went to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. He talked to the director, who was Norman Carlson. And he had Norman Carlson to sit down with Congressman Charles Ringel from New York. So they came up with information that I was in segregation, unlawful, and they needed to do something about it. So Dr. Elijah Shabazz flew all the way from DC #4, and he visited me at Marion Federal Penitentiary, Illinois. He said, brother, he said, you know what happened in Lewisburg? I said, yes, sir. He said, let me tell you the history on that. He said, they said that there was a mutiny when the brothers, broke down that Ramadan and protected themselves against the officials. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, he showed me the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, the article, where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the Ku Klux Klanners, the people in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania at that time, had surrounded the penitentiary and called for the brothers' blood. And those brothers was separated. They were shipped different places, Marion, Atlanta, all across the country. And he said that Honorable Elijah Muhammad made this statement. He said, old brothers is a vanguard for an institution that is being established in the penitentiary. And he prayed for us. And he sent Dr. Elijah Shabazz, I understand at that time, to visit those brothers at Lewisburg and let them know that no harm would come to them.
Wow.
Now, Dr. Shabazz also let me know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had wrote me a letter that I didn't receive. He got that from the prison officials. He got it from the warden Pickett at Marion. They helped my mail while I was in the hole.
Yes, sir.
And in this letter, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, dear brother Edward X, I pray that Allah that you are well. Please pray this prayer. I'll never forget it. Oh Allah, keep me in my right mind at all times and not let me turn hypocrite or coward, and remove from me the evil heart of the devil and place within me a good heart like unto thine own. I studied that letter. The first thing I seen was keep me in my right mind at all times, because the messenger knew what they was doing. I was up under behavior modification, sensory deprivation. When you lock a man up in the dark, as long as they kept me in the dark, when you release me from isolation, my mind's supposed to have been blown. But Master Farad Muhammad, again, he is a great intervener. He intervened in my case the same way he did in a brother Martin Sotrace out of New York, out of Green Haven. He was another forerunner in the prisons. Judge Carsten Motley, who was the first female Black district judge, made it so that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam literature got into Green Haven prison in New York. Brother Sartre was from Buffalo, New York. He ran a bookstore in Buffalo, New York. And when he was selling literature of the Nation and other so-called revolutionary groups, they raided his bookstore. They planted some heroin, some drugs in his bookstore, and they sentenced him to 40 years. 40 years. So it's a long suffering of brothers and sisters, females too. We had Sister Asada Shakira, who's now in Cuba.
Yes, sir.
She's in Cuba. She's been there on asylum for, I don't know how many years, I guess maybe about going on 20-some years, for the stood that she took with the Black liberation groups. At Marion Federal Penitentiary, I'm thankful to Allah, I met lawyers, white collar lawyers who taught me a little legal ropes. I met officials, masons and shriners who understood. I'm talking about Irish and Jewish people who understood the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And during the period that I was locked up in isolation during Ramadan, they fed me. They fed me food that other inmates didn't get. Like I had where they had pork and bacon, I had boiled eggs, grits, oatmeal, toast. They never told no one how they was feeding me. And while they was feeding me this, I was studying what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was saying about Ahab the general, how some of the messengers, how their followers was being fed. And the general was looking out for them while they was confined. These things begin to fall in place. And I said, this man got to be, say, who he is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad got to be the last messenger. I said, this man has pinpointed everything that I'm going through. But one thing he told me, and one thing I learned from him, brother, through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you got to take plenty. You got to take plenty. And to the new believers, the young believers, they must first understand that when the minister asks the question, how strong is your foundation?
Yes, sir.
Can you survive? You better study what he's saying, because your foundation gonna have to be strong to survive in what we are getting ready to go through. We're in the Exodus now. Our foundation gonna have to be strong. And I heard one minister say, I believe it was Brother Aleem out of Temple number 4, Mosque number 45, Brother Abdul Aleem Muhammad. He said, each tub gonna have to stand on its own bottom. That's an old saying from our grandparents. Meaning what? That which we are being given by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is already preparing us to stand on our own bottom. As the scripture said, one gonna be here and he gonna come into the bedroom and take one and leave the other.
That's right.
These things are gonna happen. If we think that Satan and his imps gonna let us march off and do for self and establish a government for our own without interference, without a challenge, we're mistaken. A good example of that is another brother, Brother Abdul Bay Muhammad, pioneer, Louisiana minister.
Yes, sir.
They went into the mosque with their guns, pulling their rifles, automatic rifles. They kicked down the doors. They challenged the believers. Everybody in that mosque fought. Didn't nobody run. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him when he met with him in Chicago after he was released, he said, brother, if you would have a run, they would have killed y'all all. They would have shot y'all down like dogs. What is that telling us? We cannot run.
That's right.
When we are aggressed upon, when we are attacked, we are to defend ourselves and call on Almighty God for his intervention. That's our freedom. That's our defender. He's the best offender. And so when I was released from prison, I went to Chicago, and brother, your father know him, Brother Kareem Allah, pioneer. He was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's, one of his first supreme captains. Master Farrar Muhammad gave him his name, Kareem Muhammad, in Detroit. Your father know that history. And he was my parole advisor when they released me from prison on May 18th, 1975, in the custody of Muhammad Speech newspaper. Why Muhammad Speech newspaper? I had been trained during the period that I was released from isolation into the government's printing press at Marion. So I learned to run printing presses, multi-liter printing presses. And the first one that I seen once I was released was at the Muhammad Speech newspaper plant. It was the press that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had brought from Germany. He had purchased it for us from Germany. They brought it to the United States on cargo boats. That's how it came into the country. And the believers, the FOI, trained each other, hands-on. We didn't know anything about that press. We taught each other how to run that press. And we was kicking off Muhammad Speech newspaper by the millions.
Yes, sir.
I would go home and ink would be all in my face. When my shift changed, I refused to leave. I told the captain at the plant, brother, let me stay here to help train these other brothers, because I knew more about that training, knew more about that press than they did, because I worked for the government in the institution, in the prison institution, prison industry. So when they sent me to Chicago, Brother Kareem Allah was my parole advisor. He lived on the south side of Chicago. And I would go to his house on weekends. I'd sit down with him and his wife for dinner. And he would tell me stories, facts, actual facts about their encounters in Chicago. He said, brother, let me tell you what happened when the government and the public school system in Chicago tried to get us to close down Muhammad University. We had to go to court. And a court battle ensued when one of the bailiffs, one of the sheriff deputies, shoved the sister to try to push her into the seats, make her go in. And what did they do that for? All hell broke loose. He said, brother, we went to rumbling. And at the conclusion of that battle, the only person that was hurt was the sheriff deputies. And when the Muslims went to court, the district judge looked at them and looked at that army of police that was in the court, and he shook his head. He dismissed the case. He dismissed the case. So the Hon Elijah Muhammad School was established on that principle. The same principle that he established for the FOI and the MGT. When he went to prison, there was one beautiful MGT. Her name was Mother Clara Muhammad.
That's right.
She was the intervener. She was the go-ahead to give messages to the ministers on the outside. She delivered. She was like what would we call a homing pigeon, but she was a righteous woman. She would deliver what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad give her to give to us on the outside. So that was a beautiful vanguard. You talking about a beautiful vanguard?
Yes,
Sister Clara, Mother Clara Muhammad helped it up, as we would say in the street. She helped it up. All MGTs should be proud of her if they study her history. Mother Clara Muhammad. And so after I got to Chicago, I worked with People's Law Office, Jeffrey Hines, Flint Taylor, Dennis Cunningham, well-known attorneys by the Nation of Islam because they done represented us in many prison battles. Jeffrey Hines represented the Black Panthers, Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. I was able to meet his family. I had dinner with Mark Clark and plus Fred Hampton's families. And through those Jewish attorneys, I was able to meet a lot of so-called revolutionaries. For instance, the 5 Puerto Rican nationalists. I don't know if you know about them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Council Miranda, LeBron Legio, Carter Laredo, all of those Puerto Rican nationalists, they were the 5 members who went to the House of Congress.
Yes, sir.
And they stood up there and they raised up the Puerto Rican flag. And they said, Viva Puerto Rico, meaning free Puerto Rico.
Yes, sir. Yes,
But
sir.
Eventually they was arrested. I met those brothers and sisters in Chicago. I met Brother Rafiq Council Miranda and Marion Federal Penitentiary. This was a Puerto Rican that loved the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. When the book sale drive was going on for How to Eat to Live and Message to the Black Man in the prison, the brothers in prisons asked brother, at that time, it was brother in New York, his Abdul Muhammad, now national representative, brother Abdul Akbar Muhammad. His name was
Brother Larry.
There you go. He had a bookstore, and he sent us the first shipment of How to Eat to Live. Now, bear witness, we're in a dominant Mexican, white, Caucasian population at Marion. They was the one that brought the books. We came in number 2 in that region. From prison, we sold more books in prison than the brothers and sisters did on the street. Think about that. Think about that. They brought those books, they purchased those books, not because of us per se, but because of the change that they seen in our character. We was classified as criminals. We was classified as bank robbers, hustlers, dope dealers. But when they seen us coming to the institution, they knew that somebody had their hands on us other than the system, other than the preacher, other than Christianity. They knew that we had been raised on a level where we earned that type of respect from the population. We didn't have no fights from the population. Matter of fact, they called on us to intervene. And white people's quarrels in the penitentiaries. I said, brother, them devils down there fighting in the gym. Brother Keith Farrer, who was the acting minister, said, brother, me and the captain going there. Ain't no sense of all y'all brothers going down there. And they went down there and they talked to them Caucasians. And whatever them Caucasians had, shields, knives, they put them up. They respected the brothers more than they did the prison officials. That's why they shipped us around so much. The light of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad shined so bright on us
Yes,
that
sir.
everywhere we went, we stood out. We stood out. One thing about us was our boldness. We didn't bother nobody in the institution. We damn sure didn't let nobody bother us. Brothers stuck together. I miss those brothers, but as Allah would tell us, all of those who are departed, their eventual return was to him. They eventually returned to Allah because they did a lot. Young brothers were coming to the prison, and you know how some of us is, with nasty minds. They was trying to turn those brothers out, make homosexuals of them. Their brotherhood protected them. They knew where to run to. When they came through them doors scared to death, they ran through the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes,
they
sir.
didn't even know how to greet us when they came. They was stumbling with their language. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Yeah. We knew what they wanted. They wanted protection. But we also knew that if they stood up under these teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and at that time, we was getting tapes from Minister Farrakhan out of New York. So you knew what they was getting. We was getting tapes from Rikers Island, the Black Families Day, all of the ministers taped. And when them young brothers heard the minister, they was slumped down, and it wasn't too long.
Go ahead.
They were bold. They were standing up in the institution. And then we had training. We had gym classes. We had track classes. You had to get up 5 o'clock in the morning to run every Saturday. You got to listen to 2 or 3 miles around the crack. Got to.
Yes, sir.
Our captain didn't stand for that.
Yes, sir.
They knew what they was making men. And most of those brothers who not departed now, if you search around the country, a good example, you have Brother Horace that was down there with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Him and Brother former Tony Muhammad, Brother Saeed Muhammad out of California.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I understand when Brother Horace hit Atlanta, man, it was dealing Final Call newspaper like crazy. Them 2 brothers ran together. Tony and Brother Horace, Roscoe Muhammad. And he hasn't been too long departed, Brother Horace. I believe about a year or so from now.
That's right. That's right.
So he was the one that told me when I came to Atlanta about the battle that he had in Norfolk, Virginia. It's been so many skirmishes that we've been in, brother. They was at the Granby Street Mall in Norfolk, Virginia back in 1964, 63. And the officers drove up, the groom squad, to try to run the brothers off the corners with Muhammad Speech newspaper. Richard Muhammad, Larry Spruill, Horace, and another brother, I don't know his name. I think his name was James Nemo. I think his name was James X Nemo. Those brothers refused to leave that corner. They had been there for years with their Muhammad Speech newspaper, so they brought out their little army. Another battle pursued. Yes, one brother got his skull kind of cracked. He made it through it, but the officers laid on the street. Your father knew that history. We didn't attack nobody. They attacked us.
Sir.
And that's right in Norfolk, Virginia, and Portsmouth right now. When you ride through there, you'll see the brothers on the corner with the paper. The police ride through there and wave. They wave now. They know about that history. Them brothers don't bother nobody. They're trying to get the message out to their people. So it's a hands off.
Yes, sir.
Hands off. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity, that you're giving me, because in 1981, I was sitting in the Red Apple restaurant. I was a follower of Imam Waliuddin Muhammad. I was in the Imam's class with Dr. Naeem Akbar, Daniel Kareem, Kamaluddin, many brothers, many ministers. I refused, though, to go into the institutions and teach what was being given to me. I was a staunch, gun-ho follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I went to the minister. He came from New York. He was in his studio in Miles number 2 at Miles Merriam now. And when I was going back to North Virginia, I sat in front of the minister. He was happy to see me because he knew I came out of prison. He knew me because he had wrote me a letter doing temple number 7 when they had their little skirmish with the police. And I wrote a letter to the temple, and he responded to me, thanking me for the letter. So I said, brother, I got to go back to Norfolk. I said, I can't teach this. I said, I can't teach this, brother. He welcomed me, and then he bid me well, greeting. He said, I understand, brother. He said, I understand. So I left and went back to North Virginia. And the next time I seen the minister, he came to rescue one of his brothers, Dr. Milton Reed, at Calvary Baptist Church. Dr. Reed had been arrested by the RRS for income tax evasion and some things that had happened in his church. But the minister knew this brother because this brother let him use his newspaper, the Junior Guide newspaper out of North Virginia, to do underground work. He would help the minister. So the minister was almost, he wasn't gonna let his brother go down without checking in on him. So he came to Norfolk. Your father would tell you what happened about that story. I'm not gonna go into detail. The minister left home. He left the palace, he left Chicago in the wee hours of the morning by himself. Nobody, security, nobody even knew he was gone. Family, nobody. Brother Sharif would tell you that when the minister reached Norfolk, Virginia, one of the first brothers he seen at the airport was myself. I was running around in the studio room looking up on the cars. And he told Brother Larry, he said, I know who that brother is. That got to be Rafiq because he's always on his post.
Yes, sir.
I'm
yes,
not
sir.
saying that to toot my horn. I'm saying that because I knew who the minister was. And I knew that no harm should come to him on our turf.
Yes, sir.
Not in Norfolk, Virginia. So anyway, we sat down at the Omni Hotel. Your father was with us at breakfast, after breakfast. We sat down at the Omni Hotel. At that time, I was running for city council in Portsmouth, Virginia. Someone sent me some mail full of all the drug cartels in our area. The names of the people who had drugs and distributing the drugs, and the name of how many milligrams, all the way down to the microscopic inch of cocaine and whatever heroin that they had in the community. I didn't know what to do with it. I was sitting down with your father and the minister with the envelope in my hand. Minister couldn't take it with him to Chicago. But he did tell me this, and your father would bear me witness. Brother, Allah got you back. I can't tell you what to do with it, but Allah got your back. I cater to the public. I cater to the news media. Can you imagine? Now, don't tell me I won't shaking now. I have a little bit of shaking in me now because we're dealing with drug cartels.
Yes,
and
sir.
you exposing them and calling their name and how much dope they got up on the street, and you ain't got no protection around you? Come on, man. Oh, well, I go to the cross again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The chief of police, he went to the news media behind me that same evening, and he told the public that I had done a disservice to the community because they was investigating, and I destroyed the investigation. They want that. He was part of that cartel. We found out later. He was part of that cartel that was transferring drugs from the police officers to the brothers on the street. So they couldn't stand that intervention. They wanted to know who is that so-and-so. But I knew from that time, from prison, that Master Rafiq Muhammad, like the messenger told me, seek refuge in Allah, was my only protection. So when the minister came to the scope, you remember this one, he asked the question, why was the brotherhood one many of us? There weren't many of us in Norfolk. The damage had been done by people who had infiltrated the nation. And they were doing some of everything. I mean, some of everything. And we were wondering why we can't get nobody in the mosque to stay. Like Allah, he exposes things. Gradually, they begin to either get arrested or fall away. And the brotherhood began to build up over again. Dr. Akbar, Brother Akbar, Abdul Akbar Muhammad, national representative, he came in because we're from the same neighborhood.
Okay.
We from the same turf, in Hampton, Virginia. And he would come in and he would drop in with his books and his literature, but he would also drop us jewels from the minister. So when your father and Brother Aquil Found out that the minister was in Norfolk, Virginia at Calvary Baptist Church by himself. But I don't know how they got to Norfolk. I don't know how they got from Baltimore, Washington, or wherever they came from. Believe me, I'm bearing you witness. Before the minister could come off their rostrum, your father and brother Kill was there. They took my post and took Sister Evelyn's post. It was two of Sister MGT and myself up there. They took our post. Man, I said, okay, I saw no Lincoln, brother. You dismissed. I didn't disobey. I stepped aside. You know, I don't want a man, how in the world? Your father still ain't told me how they got there that quick. You know, and while they was there, the minister was teaching on the this flower, the lily. He was teaching on the lily because this was an Easter Friday. And he was at Calvary. Listen to me carefully now.
Yes,
he was
sir.
at Calvary Baptist Church to represent Dr. Milton Minister Reed, who we call the disciple. But this was just before Easter. The Friday before Easter, almost 72 hours away. And the minister was there teaching on the lilies that was on the rostrum, on the floor. And he pointed to the lilies. He said, my people are just like that lily. He said, a lily is a plant that can grow in any terrain. You can plant it in the desert and it'll sprout up. You can plant it in the ice, it'll sprout up. You can plant it in the rain, in the snow. You can plant it in all types of weather in that lily. He said, but when the lily blooms, it turns itself east to face the sun. To face the sun. He came there to teach us. And he mentioned later on that he had came to his crucifixion. And that's another story.
Yes, sir.
Because we were the police had tried to block us from coming down Military Highway from the airport. They had set up little, fake roadblocks. And the minister, who he is, he told Brother Richard, who was driving, the Lincoln, he was in the front seat, and Brother Larry was beside him. I was in the back seat with the minister. He said, turn here, turn there, turn here. The minister made us turn 4 or 5 different ways. You want to know how does a man who's not from North Virginia know where to turn to get out of a roadblock?
Go ahead.
How did he know that? It had to be Allah and his messenger guiding him. And he's guiding him the same way now around people, around even the enemies that come among him.
Yes, sir.
Guides him. And so after that church service, the brother was released from jail. I don't know too much about what happened in his church, behind that, but he was released. And the minister, while we was riding in the back seat, he was on the passenger side back seat. I was on the left side. He put his left hand on my right knee. This is what he told me, Brother Joshua.
Yes, sir.
He said, brother, you left Chicago. He said, I remember it. I said, yes, sir. He said, you walked away because you said you couldn't take it. Yes, sir. He said, but you held on. He said, you held on. What did he mean? I was in my right mind.
Yes, sir.
Then the message told me, keep in your right mind at all times.
Yes, sir.
And even today when things happening, I'm sitting here in an auditorium that I only supposed to be in. I'm in the senior citizen building, but they usually close up here at 5 o'clock. It's 5:41 now. So why am I here? Who's protecting me to be here right now? When the time for me to be out this room is over with. And the guy who locked the door haven't even showed up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Allah, brother Jabril, the angel, Minister Jabril, student Minister Jabril, he told us in his article, he said, brother, when the messenger tell you something, you got to learn how to piece it apart.
That's right.
You got to look at it, but you got to look up under it. So I was looking for, why did the dear Holy Apostle tell me something about turning hypocrite or coward? Well, I didn't turn coward in the prison. Passed that test. I didn't turn coward against the Jews here on April the 16th, 2018, when they tried to bring the IDF to Durham, North Carolina. International Defense Force, Israel Defense Force. They was bringing the Israel Defense Force to Durham to train police on how to deal with the Black community. This is the synagogue of Satan. The mayor, Steve Shule, was a Jew who had invited them here. He resigned now. I'm not the student minister here, no. But the minister said, brother, you don't have to have a title. The best title is Muslim. You don't have a title to do right. To do right, when you know that something going to affect your people, and you know it, and you see it, why wait when Allah's with you? So I went to the city council. You can Google it up. April the 16th, 2018. Durham City Council. Rafiq Zaidi, anti-Semite. Man, that's the best term they could have told me. That was the best name they could have gave me. Because I'm walking in the footsteps of not only my father, but I'm walking in the footsteps of that which he raised, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I'm not afraid to say what he said. You can call me a power parrot. You can call me what you want to call me. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught him well, and he's teaching us well. He said, I told the city council, I said, you Jews in the city of Durham have inordinate control over politics, religion, and the social activities that's going on. Inordinate control. That's what the minister said. All IDL sent that to Israel. Someone was calling for my head right here in Durham. This was 2018. I didn't go to nobody for no protection. I didn't ask nobody for help. I knew when I stepped out there that I was stepping out there in hot water, but I knew a man like that could cool it off. Oh, Master Farad Muhammad. That's my protection. And when the believers, I heard Brother Kareem Allah say this to me one day. He said, brother, he said, that point number on the back of the Muhammad Speech newspaper.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The belief that Allah came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad.
That's right.
He said, if a brother or sister don't believe that, what God do they believe in? I heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say, Savior's Day 1971. He said, if you don't believe in my God, bring me the God that you represent.
Go ahead, Rafiq.
Bring him to me. And no one never did. You can't bring no mystery God to us or anyone else, other than if you believe in that mystery God. So I'm not going to consume your time. I really appreciate this. And it's so much because I'm working on my book right now.
Okay.
I'm almost halfway completed it. And I may have let the cat out of the bag. But just recently here in Durham, our children is being affected by lead in the soil.
Yes, sir.
I lost a 3-year-old grandson in 1982 in Portsmouth, Virginia, to lead. Lead is a carcinogen. It causes cancer. It travels. It's just like the virus that we're facing now. It travels. It mutates. It mutates. It has its own engine. It has its own chemicals that's not seen. You can't smell it and you can't taste it. It is dangerous. They have our children playing in the playgrounds in Durham, white, black, and red and brown. And for the last 6 years in 5 parks and recreations in Durham, the government have found lead. So they supposed to gave us a report yesterday on the conclusion of their analysis, which they didn't. But I'll call you about something else to pull up that we just finished dealing with. It's on Facebook. But I, a Jewish woman, and several other people in the community, we went before council and we pinned them down. We pinned them down. You're not going to kill our children. The developers is not going to come in here and build up in this city on top of lead and kill our children. You're not going to do that. And nobody, the city council was dominant black, everybody got a conspiracy of silence. They silence because, you know, they get paid.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, the master gives some of us crumbs off of the table, and we don't give a damn about the black community. As long as we get paid, they call that, what is self-aggrandizement. As long as we get paid and we can take care of my family, the hell with yours. That's the bottom line. And when you speak truth to Satan, it's just like David going before Goliath. You know, there's a price, Brother Joshua, when you're chosen, and to the believers, there's a price.
Yes, sir.
There's a price. This ain't no easy cakewalk. I remember when I got home, when I got to Chicago on May the 15th, 1975, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had just departed in February. Man, I was hurt. My mind was blown. Here's a man that I laid in the hole segregation almost 9 years. I was dying to see him on the roster. And I said, time y'all release me. Messenger has departed. I didn't understand that he was still alive. I didn't understand. I seen believers in Chicago go crazy. I seen some of them go back to the street. But one night, Brother Theron Mahdi.
Yes, sir.
I was sitting in the Red Apple, him and Brother Benny, his brother.
Yes, sir.
They was they came out to get brothers to clean up the auditorium because it was the rebirth of a nation. I had some marijuana in my left sock, and I had some paper money, change for whatever, who was gonna come get some from me in my right sock.
Yes, sir.
I threw everything away but my money. I flushed it down the stool. I went with Brother Theron Mahdi and Benny. We went to that auditorium. That night, the minister came out. Nation is back. 1981. I came out of my graveyard clothes, put my bow tie back on, and went to soldier. I said, oh, praise is due to Allah. I said, Satan missed me. I said, he almost had me. I was in the street, almost had me dealing drugs in Chicago. I said, oh man, thank you, Brother Theron. And from that point on, I met with Dr. Naeem Akbar and a brother by the name of Angelo Shabazz out of Pensacola, Florida. And we started, I said we, with others, started the Nation of Islam as of today, prison department. We started, it wasn't no prison department. There was people going in to visit their relatives that was in prison, but there was no established prison department for the nation or for Imam Muhammad's group until we started it back up. We started it. And it wasn't no easy job because they didn't want us in the institution. But the brothers who was going back into the institution from Chicago was ex-offenders. They knew the prisons. They knew the prison. They went to Pontiac, Michigan prison, and they wore it out. When they said when the minister went there to visit, the whole auditorium was full of Muslims. Overnight. So these brothers and sisters who have started us off in the Nation of Islam, sacrificed their lives, it should be remembered. My book is just to that note. They should be remembered. Dr. Alani Abdul Alim Shabazz, at his burial site, Janaza, 4 years ago almost today, I looked at the people who was there, the brothers and sisters, Brother Joshua, they was from all over the world. You hear what I said?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He was buried at Quantico National Military Cemetery. I think it's Triangle, Virginia. That's where he was buried at. With government honors. Why? NASA, NASA, National Aeronautics, Space. Brother, at that time, Lana Shabazz was one of the top mathematicians for the government that helped get some of them spaceships up out of here. When he heard the teachings of the Hon Elijah Muhammad, he threw that stuff away and went to Temple No. 4.
Yes, sir.
Then he went to Grambling University and he taught and raised other brothers and sisters who many is living now that are top-notch mathematicians and scientists around the world right now. Right now. They were the ones who was at his graveside. All colors from all over the world. All over the world. And this brother, his son, Yahya, Brother Yahya Shabazz, told me, he said, brother, he said, get at the end of this casket. Rafiq, I helped tote the casket to the gravesite.
Beautiful.
You know, but why? Because this brother helped Hon Elijah Muhammad save my life. He was the one that went to the prison department with Councilman Charles Rangel and tell him, hands off, my brothers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We don't serve pork. Why you got the brother locked up for refusing to serve pork? Then the newspapers started coming in the prison, the books, everything started flowing. Now today, we really don't have no problems getting literature into some institutions. We still got some Satan's imps out there, some of them black. That's why I understand when the Minister Farrakhan, when Honorable Minister Farrakhan says that the synagogue of Satan is made up of some blacks too.
Absolutely.
I understand that now, more so now than ever, because they are the ones who are Harlins, they're hard hands. And they try to keep the community in control for Satan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And they really don't care about us. As Michael Jackson said, what did he say? They don't care about us.
That's right. That's right.
They don't care about us. So in my conclusion, I want to say this. There's a brother who just passed away in Chicago by the name of Dr. Charles Knox. He was instrumental along with James Montgomery, Renard Robinson, the police, Afro-American police organizer in Chicago.
Yes, sir.
They were the ones who secured the minister in 1981 when the nation came back. You know, they made sure that no harm come to the minister. Brother Charles Knox started going into the prisons to visit Jeff Falk, Al
That's right.
Rookins,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
other Seminole liberation brothers and sisters. All of us at one time was in Marion, Illinois. That's where they placed us at. All of what they call the militants, the radicals, they put us together. But you know, there was a plan for that. They didn't put us together because of how our classifications was, extremists, or whatever they call us. They placed us together to have us to fight each other. But it didn't work. And it didn't work for one main reason. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad followers kept peace in the institution. All of them will come to us to find out, man, should we do this? No, man, there's no sense in messing with that prison guard. He gonna get his. But man, he tore up my mail at my mother. He gonna get his, brother, Puerto Rican brother. So we had to be, as they say now, interveners in the institution. They had gangs. They got gangs in the institution. So I'm thankful for this privilege and opportunity that Allah have given me with your Zoom podcast.
Yes,
because very seldom that we get this opportunity, pioneers. In a few more days, I'll be 80 years old.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
And with the grace of Allah, I done had covert with ventilator on me 2 years ago almost. Prostate cancer. They overrad me, shot me with so many radiation, that it was like you would take, Brother Joshua, you would take a plastic hair comb that you comb your hair with, and you would put it in your oven. And after a period of time, you know what's happening. When the heat hit that plastic, it melts.
Yes, sir.
The rays that they put into my body, it melted my bladder. They had to stick a tube up my private part to drain water out of my body for 4 months. The sister that helped me get on this podcast right now was the one, lost found, came to me in this senior citizen home I'm in, it would empty my water bag every morning.
Great.
That's how I know what the minister's saying. I got people that you see and you don't see.
Yes,
that's
sir.
What the government is worried about. There's many of our brothers and sisters who's behind the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the exalted Christ, and the minister, and they can't figure out where they're at. It's baffling to them because we pops up in many ways. I understand what the minister partially going through. I understand his prostate condition. And I encourage brothers, if they're listening, get a check. Get your prostate check. It's not about nobody sticking their hand in your rectum anymore. You can get it through blood. There are many tests that they give now that you can catch it early. Don't let it get to the stage where I let it get through over 0.5, my PSA. Don't let it get high, because the damage that you're doing to yourself, you could have avoided it through a checkup. And make sure that you try to find a good black physician, primary care doctor. You know, because some of these white doctors, some of these Caucasians, they're going to put you on prescription. They know that you got a severe case of prostate cancer. But by the time You get the chemo and radiation, it's almost over with. You got to take some hormone shots, which I take every 9 months. And some people say, brother, you look like you're lifting weight. No, this is hormone. This is hormone. You know, you look at your t-shirts in the morning, they got prints on them. Man, come on. Where's this coming from? It came from because I didn't take time to check on my own health. I didn't take the time. I should have went when the minister told us to go. He told us, brothers, get your check. I went to the prostate walk in Chicago. Yeah. We went from Durham, North Carolina by the bus load, van loads rather. And that was a beautiful walk. We ended up in the park. I think it was the name of that park. Can't think the name of that park. Downtown Chicago, off of
yes, sir.
Off of South Shore Drive. Yeah, off of South Shore Drive. And the minister spoke to us in the park, you know, and he was very vibrant, very energetic. He did the whole walk.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Through that part of South Shore, and the brothers and sisters, the so-called lost founts, they was waving out all the windows all through the neighborhood. And they was hollering, Minister Farrakhan, Minister Farrakhan. And I said, wow, man, look at this. But at that time, I didn't know I had prostate. I didn't know it. So I'm thankful to Allah now. My count is 0.
Wow.
And I'm praying that Allah keep his hands on me because he's the only intervention that we have.
That's right.
You know, he protects us. You know, sometimes we lose brothers and sisters, they depart, you know, but that's his active will and his permissive will. So to the pioneers that have helped me, I want to salute you. That's the brothers and sisters. I want to salute you for keeping me strong, keeping my eyes on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because, brother, if I have taken my eyes off of that man, God knows where I would have been.
Yes, sir.
Where I would have been, where my grandchildren would have been. And the name that I got it from Imam Rafiq Muhammad. But I found out through Dr. Naeem Akbar. He said, brother, he said the name was already in the files before Imam Muhammad signed that letter to you. And when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad broke that word down, Rafiq, it means friend. It means helper. It means ally. Brother or sister that come to your aid. Zayd was a companion of Prophet Muhammad.
That's right. That's right.
Who helped compile the Holy Quran.
That's right.
Do you know that this brother had to go around the tribes? Every tribe that Prophet Muhammad spoke before, he had to follow him, and he had to have 2 witnesses if he wasn't there.
Yes,
to bear
sir.
witness
Yes, sir.
that the prophet had said what he was writing down. And that book that we call the Holy Quran, that was compiled by Zayd.
That's right.
And you know what it means?
No, sir.
Zayd means wisdom. It means all, O-I-L, all wisdom. And Allah blesses whom he pleases. And I bear witness that, you know, I made some slips, some falls, you know, in this walk. But at 80 years old, I'm thankful to Allah to let me see the young believers in the nation rallying behind the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And by the way, Dr. Shabazz was a mentor, a tutor, and a mathematician scholar to Brother Shaheed Muhammad, the math doctor.
The math doctor, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Asked him where did he learn his math. Asked Brother Nuri Muhammad, how are you able to speak with calculations in your speech, giving measurements this and equations this? Ask him. He told me himself when he came down to Durham. I gave him what they call the obituary from Dr. Shabazz Janaza.
Yes,
The brother almost was in tears.
He
said, brother, I miss going there. He said, I was at another mission. Brother Shaheed told me the same thing. Those are the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's seeds that he planted in other believers, like your father, like your father.
Praise be to Allah.
Come from the same walks of life I came from.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In DC. But we still here. We still here. And you stay strong, brother. And remember that the race ain't won. To those of us who can run the fastest with titles, the minister said the best title is Muslim.
That's right.
That's the best title. You take that title and you run with it.
Yes,
and you
sir.
do what you can to help the mosque, help your father, help the believers. Get rough at times.
Yes,
you
sir.
may come
Yes,
across
sir.
some so-called believers that want to cuss you out.
Yes, sir.
But you hold fast to the hand of Islam. And Allah will bless you and your family. So I'm going to leave you with these greetings and peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Excellent. Bro, Rafiq.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You got to go. Can I ask you like 3 questions? We got a few questions.
You can ask me any question you want to, brother.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beautiful. 1 second. We have a quick 60-second. Are you there?
I'm still here.
Yes, sir. We have a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast. Thank you for everyone who's watching all across the world. We can't wait to put this on YouTube. I want everyone to please like, share, and subscribe. And we're coming right back to Brother Rafiq. We just have a commercial break, sir, and we're coming right to you.
Camera and drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need any of those services. Sister Miriam's ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, and now Spanish book. All 3 available on Amazon.com. Sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country, right here in the studios of Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Kenneth's Bow Tie Maker Extraordinaire. He'll ship you bow ties anywhere across the nation. Dr. Henry Carter's King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad's COVID-19 Disinfected Cleaning Services, out of Chicago. Student Minister Sharif Muhammad's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, available on adulsharif.com. And lastly, Brother Joshua Muhammad's book, Cleopatra, as well as No Father, No Excuse, both available on Amazon.
Thank you very much. And we also have Sister Sherry Muhammad. She teaches at Asiatic Minds. She's teaching STEM to young kings and queens all around the world. If you want your child to learn science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you can learn virtually at AsiaticMinds.com. Thank you very much, Sister Sherry. I wanted to ask you, sir.
Yes, sir.
First of all, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we thank Allah for you and your sacrifices, many sacrifices, and the many sacrifices of your family. We thank Allah for you, sir, and we salute you.
Sir. All praises are due to Allah.
Yes, sir. We salute you for all of the things that you have done.
All praises are due to Allah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now I wanted to ask you, man, we got to go back now because you gave us so much history. I wanted to ask you about the KKK being outside of the
Lewisburg?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But did you ever get to speak to those brothers and hear like how they felt when they saw them? Did they have sheets on? Were they in regular clothes? What was that like?
The brothers was on lockup during the time of that mutiny on the outside.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What we did learn, including the brothers, they didn't have sheets on, but they had their carbine rifles. They had their nightsticks. And the majority, 60%, was prison guards. See, but this is one thing people got to understand. The prison industry, when they employ a prison official, 90% of the time, that official or prison guard or officer live within the vicinity of the prison. So when the mutiny of the so-called riot occurred at Lewisburg, it went clean to their telephone line from inside the institution. So the only thing they had to do was to jump in their cars and come across the street. They were the ones who heated up a hostile environment against the believers, Muhammad's believers. And that's why the Hon Elijah Muhammad said, tell the brother Dr. Shabazz. He sent him straight in. Allah got their back. Some of the brothers received stiff sentences. I think Brother Bullwall, Bill X Bullwall, received 14 years. Brother Keith had 7 years added on to his original sentence that he was serving. One brother who testified against us, I'm not going to call his name, but one brother who testified in court against us, he got released. This is our history.
Yes, sir.
We always going to find somebody.
That's right.
We're going to find somebody among us. That's why the scripture said what? Watch as well as pray.
That's right.
Because the minister said, if you don't watch, you may not be around to pray. So those agents who was on the outside of the prison stirring up the fire, Muhammad Speed had an article on that. If you can go back through the archives, 1968, 69. If you can go back through the archives, you will see the article, I believe it was written by Brother Charles, who was the editor during that time. I forget his name now. He lived in DC, Charles Muhammad. He was the editor for the Muhammad Speaks at that time. Him and the brother who did the cartoons, brother, can't think of his name, need him slipping a little bit. But anyway, that article is in the archives from the Nation of Islam, where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was telling the world, hands off my prisoners.
Yes, sir.
And the minister right now, we don't know it, but a lot of people in the society, in the community, is here only by the grace of the minister. They fear Farrakhan, not the people.
That's right.
That they going after. They fear the minister. Is Farrakhan backing them? Will he come and stand on their behalf? That's what they worried about. Because when he comes, we all come.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah, Brother Rafiq. Sister Naima.
Any more questions?
Yes, sir. Sister Naima says, Assalamu alaikum. Sister Miriam.
Assalamu
alaikum. Sister Anita says, her and Brother Kanar from Mosque number 74. Sister Miriam says, praise be to Allah. Mani, Brother Mani gives a power fist with showing love. And Sister Valerie from LA says, Allahu Akbar. People just showing you love and showering you with so much positive energy. Brother Rafiq, what type of music do you listen to, sir?
I love jazz.
Okay.
I used to love some hip hop, but the scenery changed. You know, we had positive hip hop. You know, when I was coming up, especially in the institution, we would get music into the institution. And there was things in the community. Did you know one of the first rappers? I'm glad you mentioned that. Do you know who one of the first rappers was?
No, sir.
I'm going to say this. I'm black and I'm proud.
Oh, James.
Say it louder.
James.
Yeah, that was a rap.
Yes,
that was
sir.
a rap. That was a rap that went around the world. I'm black and I'm proud.
Yes,
Say
sir.
it loud. He wasn't singing. He was rapping. Their brother was rapping. And our past rappers encouraged with some positive vibes and positive music that was building the Black nation up. Satan, especially that Jewish industry with the music, they intervened and they started putting funk in the music. And some of the brothers, like, you know, who had never had no jewelry, never had no luxurious life, when they was given the opportunity to reap some of these so-called benefits, perks, they joined in with Satan and put funk in the music, you know, just almost destroyed our youth. There is some positive rap, but there's some bad rap too. And those brothers and sisters with that bad rap, they gets the rap. You know, they gets the rap from some of us.
Yes, sir. Wonderful. Yes, sir. And I have 2 more questions for you. I look forward to meeting you in person, sir. Inshallah.
Yes, sir.
I got to meet you. And I wanted to ask you about Minister Kareem. You mentioned him when we spoke on the phone. How was your connection and brotherhood with him?
When the nation was rebuilding, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan sent Brother Kareem around, especially the East Coast, as his ambassador. He came through Norfolk, Virginia. We had a little mosque, probably like a manger, you know, just a little storefront place. And he came along, he congratulated us on that. And he told us why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was using him. to help rebuild the nation. And a lot of brothers don't know that. Brother Kareem, good God Almighty, you talking about a captain and a minister. Man, this brother, they even tried to include him on Malcolm's investigation during the assassination. This brother had the FBI on his coattail down there 24 hours a day. And he mastered the teachings of what the minister and Honorable Elijah Muhammad had gave him. And now look at the young student minister in New Jersey right now. You heard him. You heard him.
Yes,
a couple
sir. Yes,
Sundays
sir.
ago.
Yes,
Month
sir.
number 2. He ain't had no notes. He was fired with Elijah Muhammad and the minister. But look who he came up under. He
Yes,
came
sir.
up under Kareem. He came up under Brother Kareem. He's doing well now. His family's doing well. And he wanted to go to the last Savior's Day, but he couldn't leave his wife, I understand. And the nation understood that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But let me tell you something. If they want to study a history of a man who stood from Temple number 7 all the way up to now, back in the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, call on Brother Kareem. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna send you his number so you can talk to him yourself.
Yes,
but first,
sir.
I gotta ask him. I'm not gonna cross no bridges.
Yes,
Because
sir.
I don't want to cut my water off because he feeding me.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir. I understand. You can't never give up the plug. And
I wouldn't dare do that without his permission.
Yes, sir. Wonderful. Well, we sending positive energy and the greetings to our brother and his family as well. Thank him. He was instrumental in my parents' upbringing and their training in Islam. So we thank a lot for
all praises due to Allah.
Yes,
so
sir.
You know.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm familiar.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask you, what would you like your legacy to be, sir?
I was a good Samaritan for the Hon Elijah Muhammad. I was a good helper and a good Samaritan for the Hon Elijah Muhammad. And in that word Samaritan, it's real deep if we understand it, because it's a helper. When people laying around need help, weak, can't fight for themselves, it's my spirit to try to go pick them up, uplift my brothers and sisters, regardless how they may look, because every time I look at them, I'm looking at God.
That's right. That's right.
I realize that. I'm looking at God. And the struggle that I've been through in the street and the struggle that they're going through, I understand it. And it needs some compassion. And that's what Jesus asked in that question about the Samaritan. He asked that question. Who is he to show love and compassion for his brothers and sisters?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And, I have beef with people. I have, satisfaction with people, but I would never let that get above what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have given us in self-development. I would never let it get above that. If I have to leave you or go away from you, I would rather do that than to argue with you. Because I know what's going to happen in the end.
Yes, sir.
We all going to have to come together. There's no doubt in it. Look at what Allah is doing to America. Allah, Master Muhammad and his angels, they are whipping the hell out of America.
That's right. That's right.
And you know what the messenger said? He said it to us on page 129. Message to the Black Man of America. On page 129, the right-hand top of the page. I'm looking at it now, and then you have the book in front of me.
Yes, sir.
The messenger saying, listen to this. Quote, America is now under divine plague.
That's right.
One will come after the other until she is destroyed. Word for word. Catch the end of that. Allah have said it. Study that line.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Allah said it. Now, if Master Muhammad said it, what should we look for?
That's right.
One after Palestine, plagues, one after another. Right now, as we talk, they're expecting tornadoes, torrent winds, hurricanes. Look at California. Look at Hawaii. Look at the heat. Look at the new virus coming back. Did Honorable Elijah Muhammad lie?
No, sir.
He said, America is now. Brother Jabril said, look up under that word, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It didn't happen when Elijah wrote the book. Look up under. He's way ahead of us. He's way ahead of us. He knew what was going to happen. As it happened, as the minister say, we are witnessing the unraveling of a great nation.
That's right.
We are witnessing right now as we talk. We don't know what's going to come tomorrow. That's why preparedness, disaster preparedness, it's a must.
Yes, sir.
It's a must that you learn how to cannery food. It's a must that you have a safe keeping for your family.
Yes, sir.
Shelter, something to eat, water to drink. This man cut off our gas. Hon Elijah Muhammad had a cartoon by brother Eugene Majid was his name. He was a cartoonist. He had a cartoon with us standing in front of a grocery store. There was a big lock about the size of your cap you got on your head right now.
Yes, sir.
There was a big lock on the grocery store door. A big lock. And we were standing in front of that grocery store. This is in the cartoon now. With handkerchiefs and tears coming out of our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The black man and woman crying because that grocery store was closed down. What is Elijah trying to tell us in the cartoon? If you don't think it's going to happen, wait. Just like the minister said, watch the weather. It happens. It happens. So we're living on a great day, but we're also living on a grateful day.
That's right.
We are living on a great and grateful day, but we're going to make it because we were born to make it. It's our destiny to make it. We had to go through everything we're going through to prove that Allah is God.
That's right.
He's going to prove who he is. He's proving it every day.
Yes, sir.
So I thank you for your questions, brother.
Yes, I thank you. And Brother Rafiq, inshallah, we will speak after we get off the line. May Allah bless you and your family. Thank everyone who was watching. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off of the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Brother Josh.
Yes, sir.